And while this modern deck is quite powerful, it's a little more stock. Likely less comfortable relative to the field.
We get a turn 1 Noble Hierarch from Levi. He plays 2 copies of the mana creature in his Abzan list.
We see Todd there with typical Shadow tactics, playing Steam Vents untapped to cast Thought Scour. Not a huge payoff, but he does want to lose that 2 life.
Yeah, also just helping to build up his delve. Todd's deck playing 2 copies of Gurmag Angler, 2 copies of Tasigur. Looks like a Tasigur already in his hand.
Generally improves your Snapcaster mages in the early game as well. Can set up some of these nice Kolaghan's commands in early turns too.
Another 3 life down for Todd as he fetches for Watery Grave. Todd's hand also is the Steam Vents is not exactly what he'd want. You see Tasigur, Terminate, and 2 copies of Thoughtseize in his hand. There's a bit of a choke on his black mana.
And you do see that reference in the way that the deck is constructed. The split on dual lands is 3 Watery Grave, 1 Steam Vents, 1 Blood Crypt.
Yeah. So Todd will Thought Scour. He goes in more aggressive play here. He Thought Scours himself and then delves away 5 cards to cast a 1 mana copy of Tasigur. So he gets a 4/5 in play on turn 2 here. It does mean that his hand is all discard spells.
A little curious that Todd left 2 Thought Scours in his graveyard, likely suggesting that he's not banking on getting to 4 mana or having his Tasigur to survive. When you start acting Tasigur's 4 mana ability, Thought Scour is not the card you ever want to get back.
So you might want Thought Scour land or land?
I might want just land. Street Wraith getting back out that seems fine. It would give him something to get back with his Kolaghan's commands if he drew those.
Now we're going to see to the rest of Todd's hand here as it's Inquisition of Kozilek from Levi. Inquisition shows 2 Thoughtseizes, a Terminate, a Street Wraith, and a basic Swamp.
Depending on the texture of Levi's hand, Terminate's not good against a lot of the Abzan draws. Depending what he has. If he's got something like a Planeswalker or 2 in his hand, the Thoughtseizes are something you want to get out of there.
Interestingly, Levi's actually going to take 1 of the 2 copies of Thoughtseize.
More interestingly, he's going to miss his 2nd land drop.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see whether or not Todd is going to fire off a removal spell on that Noble Hierarch. We do know he has that Terminate.
He picked up a Lightning Bolt, which is a huge win for Todd.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning Bolt here on the Noble Hierarch seems great. Todd will lead on Thoughtseize. We'll look at what Levi's sitting with. We have Scavenging Ooze, Thoughtseize, Lingering Souls, Abrupt Decay, and 2 copies of Liliana of the Veil. Levi's hand was really hoping to hit that 2nd land.
Yeah, a lot of 3 mana stuff in here. Going to be very limited on options once that Hierarch is down. Even if he produces a 2nd land, he's looking at most Scavenging Ooze, Abrupt Decay. Well, Todd has 2 removal spells in his hand. He's casting the Thoughtseize right now. If Levi doesn't start making land drops fast, this is going to be a runaway for Todd Anderson.
Yeah, well, look at how much that 2nd land cost Levi. If he had hit it, his play instead of a Thoughtseize on that 2nd turn would have been Liliana of the Veil -2 to kill the Tasigur. We'd be looking at a very different game.
And Todd does spend the Terminate over the Lightning Bolt. It's mana efficient, and also the threats
it's
he's looking at.
It's aggressive.
Threats he's looking at die to 1. They both die to Lightning Bolt or Terminate, and he's disguising the fact that Lightning Bolt's in his hand.
Well, between Lightning Bolt and Snapcaster Mage, is there some argument here? Levi's at 13. Maybe Todd wants to hang onto the Bolt to shoot it upstairs.
That's certainly true. There's no white mana for Levi, so he can't draw white mana and Path to Exile. Therefore, he can't actually solve Tasigur. So Levi's functionally already at 9. Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster Bolt without any attacks is 6 damage in itself.
So that's 3. We're getting pretty close to lethal.
Yep.
And Levi's going to help out the cause. Windswept Heath finding Godless Shrine is 3 more damage for Todd. Levi will make Scavenging Ooze. And what we get to see here now is Todd can swing Tasigur. If Levi doesn't chump block, he's dead. That's 4 from Tasigur and 6. Todd's going to go another route. He's going to Lightning Bolt the Ooze, then swing the Tasigur, putting Levi to 6, and say go with that Snapcaster in hand. This is probably also lethal.
Yeah, but Todd leaving up that, drawing the land for the turn means he has access to Snapcaster, Lightning Bolt here. There's really nothing that Levi can do. Certainly not with the cards that we saw in hand. Definitely not with the mana available.
Yeah, I guess if Levi just drew a Path to Exile here, he would be alive for at least 1 more turn.
Yeah, he'd only be going down to 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. Tarmogoyf from Levi.
Creature, instant, sorcery, land. And no Planeswalker was taken off the discard.
Yeah, so the big four, as we kind of say here. The easy four.
Right. And given that 4/5 Tarmogoyf, there's no incentive for Todd to go for end step Snapcaster Lightning Bolt, but Snapcaster Terminate looks mighty nice here.
Yeah, and that's the place I make. Snapcaster, Terminate, Swing of Tasigur for 4. Levi drops to 2. And we'll say go. Todd, 1 card in hand. Draw here. It looks like Traverse the Ulfenwald from Levi. That's really not going to do much. I suppose with a land into Lingering Souls, Levi could hope to chump block his way to another card.
Right, yeah, and Todd's just got 1 card in hand. It is the land, but without land to cast Lingering Souls, he doesn't have anything going on.
Right, so that's going to be game 1 to Grixis Death's Shadow. It's Todd Anderson going to be up. Really capitalizing on a missed land drop by Levi.
If you look at the spells in Levi's hand, with the ability to cast 1 or 2 more of those, this game certainly could have gone his way.
Right, I mean, just that turn 2 Liliana, if he'd had it, would have been very strong.
Oh, yes.
All right, we're going to go over to the player's sideboard. So starting on Levi Basham's side, he's got 2 copies of Stony Silence, 2 Flaying Tendrils, 2 Gideon Ally of Zendikar, 2 Fulminator Mage, 3 copies of Collective Brutality, and then his one-ofs are Nile Spellbomb, Maelstrom Pulse, Damnation, and Ghost Quarter. So there's a mix of hate cards, sweepers, and then bigger threats. Any direction you might see him go.
The 1/1 removal, say the Maelstrom Pulse, that's going to be a slam dunk. Levi is himself playing a very creature-heavy deck, so the Damnation is not necessarily where he wants to be. It's going to be more for go-wide decks, so there is an argument to bring it in here. Nile Spellbomb is great for slowing down Todd's ability to cast Delve threats, turning off Snapcaster Mage, what have you, so that one's quite powerful here. You can use Fulminator Mage to cut them off on mana. This is a more exciting line against the Shadow deck when you have these 1-mana creatures. The line of Noble Hierarch into Fulminator Mage can effectively end the game very early. And Gideon Ally of Zendikar is actually quite powerful against any variant of Grixis deck. You know, of course, Death Shadow outsizes it pretty quickly.
That was what I was going to ask you. I like big threats against Grixis. I don't like big threats against Shadow. So, no, where's the like a 4-mana spell that last game doesn't feel like it would have mattered.
Right. The relevant consideration here, you know, the games are going to slow down post-sideboard. He has more relevant interaction to stop those large creatures. And also, this is not a Teamer Battle Rage version of Death Shadow. So Gideon's going to carry a lot more weight.
All right, so Todd Anderson's sideboard. He has some bigger threats of his own. Well, really just 2 of them, just 2 copies of Liliana the Last Hope. After that, he has Kozilek's Return, 4 Nile Spellbomb, 2 Stubborn Denial, 3 Ceremonious Rejection, and 2 Collective Brutality. So it's just various types of hate cards. Then again, hate cards are they're hard to do against a deck like Abzan. Does he want any of these?
There's an argument for Nile Spellbomb if you think that your opponent is the Traverse Abzan build. There's not a lot of that going on in Levi's deck. It wouldn't really pay off here.
Yeah, Todd didn't see any cards of that either.
Right. Liliana the Last Hope is generally pretty strong in this matchup because it deals with Lingering Souls, one of the more problematic cards for Todd's deck. It also kills Noble Hierarchs, which is quite nice. Also in that situation towards the end of the game, we have 4/5 Tarmogoyf versus 4/5 Tasigur. Last Hope does a great job at solving that problem. There's some argument for Kozilek's Return to deal with Lingering Souls as well.
All right, so Todd Anderson, as of late, the most storied player here on the SCG Tour, certainly the most top 8s. Right now, 31 top 8s with 6 wins. He has 3 Invitational top 8s and is a former Invitational champion. Originally from Alabama, now living in the Roanoke area. One of the content producers here at Star City Games.
Most impressive thing is that second factoid jumped over the catcher and was safe once after watching Major League. Quite the physical bout.
Well, that's okay.
Literally jumping over another player without getting tagged.
Yeah, you see that in highlight reels sometimes. But I've never personally done it. That seems...
Now, here's a question. He has an old cat, a blind cat, and a dumb cat.
Is it the same one?
Yes. Is this 3 cats, 2 cats, 1 cat, maybe 5 cats?
This is one of those logic problems, you know, when it's like, you know, like the man in the yellow house owns 3 cats, and then it's like he also drives an orange car, and then you have to figure out.
I like the framing just entirely being Todd has an old cat, a blind cat, and a dumb cat. How many cats?
Does he have? Yeah, there's a lot of different iterations here of what he could have, which I like. Now I gotta get in, the puzzle. I believe there's like 10 different ways he could do it.
Old and blind is going to be a consistent thing. It makes sense for that to be the same cat, and it kind of doesn't make sense for that to be different cats.
All right, game number 2 underway. Levi Basham on the play. Verdant Catacombs and says go. No Noble Hierarch here. I do think it's interesting when we see cards like Noble Hierarch in the Obs on deck, just as a 2-of, These decks were huge fans of Deathrite Shaman. Noble Hierarch is no Deathrite Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman's a 1-mana planeswalker. Noble Hierarch is a pretty good mana creature. While both cards are excellent, there is a clear gap in quality.
All right. Invitational Kozilek from Todd Anderson shows a hand of 3 removal spells and 2 threats. It was Path, and Maelstrom Pulse. The 2 threats were Tarmogoyf, Liliana, and Levi had a second land. So whether choosing to take removal or take threats, it looks like Todd is going to take the threats. He takes Liliana, the Last Hope.
And Liliana is the hardest thing of the hand to deal with. When it comes to removal spells, you can just have a high volume of threats. You can have more discard spells. You can have counter spells that'll solve that. Liliana, the Last Hope is the hardest card to actually deal with. A Tarmogoyf can always be terminated or what have you.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is there aren't that. Why I was surprised, or maybe is that the Last Hope doesn't kill very many cards in Todd's deck.
It's more so the fact that the -2 ability generates value over time.
Okay. So he'll have to spend a card on it at some point anyway, whether it's a Lightning Bolt, a Kolaghan's Command.
He'll have to spend a card, or that card just replaces itself immediately, which is not where you're going to be. This matchup's largely going to be about attrition.
So second turn, Levi will play that other land that Todd knew about. He's expecting Tarmogoyf here. Todd is helping Levi out. He did put a Planeswalker in the graveyard.
Yeah, that'll make that a little bit larger. Certainly out of Lightning Bolt range already. You have land, sorcery, Planeswalker. Not to mention that 2 card types already puts you out of Lightning Bolt
was
range.
Like, ooh, I've tried to bolt a 2/3 Goyf before.
Yeah, you don't run that.
Definitely learned that one the hard way. Here's Tarmogoyf. It's a 3/4.
I've taught a few people that one. It's not how I learned it.
Like, yeah, no, your Lightning Bolt resolves.
Yeah.
That's when you have to explain to them that the Goyf, it's not going to work, but the Lightning Bolt is still in the graveyard. It's just a 3/4 Goyf with 3 damage on it, which...
The ensuing conversation can be lengthy.
All right, here's Thoughtseize from Todd Anderson. The card that Levi has picked up is Shambling Vent. Todd will take the copy of Maelstrom Pulse, so he's leaving Levi with just some paths to exile.
There's some give and take when you evaluate Maelstrom Pulse versus Path to Exile. The drawback of Maelstrom Pulse is that it costs 3. The upside is if Todd has 2 Death Shadows, but mostly Todd would like to get those basic lands out of his deck.
Yeah. Thoughtseize and Fatal Push, so the board is clean right now.
It does look like Todd has drawn his basic swamp. That means there's just basic island. So the second Path to Exile is actually very powerful.
Street Wraith will put Todd down to 10, which actually is just fine by him. Here's Death Shadow. Land and go. Now this is kind of neat, Ryan. He could have cast Collective Brutality to get one of those paths to exile before casting Death Shadow, but doesn't. Also, doesn't play. He Street Wraithed into a Street Wraith. He did not cycle the second one. I think he might be looking to cast it.
Yeah, that's definitely an option that he has available to him. It's possible he's just disguising information as well. There's no real pressure to go for the Street Wraith immediately.
Here's Collective Brutality from Todd. It'll get the other path to exile, but here's some bad news. The other card that Levi's picked up is a good one.
Yeah, once again, Collective Brutality, Instant Sorcery. Can't hit Planeswalkers, and Gideon Allies Zendikar is the card he certainly would have picked to discard there.
Yeah, well, he does have some threats of his own. It's going to be Gurmag Angler from Todd Anderson, so he'll have a 5/5. Right now, that looks to be good against the Gideon. Not to mention that Street Wraith, the last card in Todd's hand, actually, the Swamp Walk is going to be pretty good against Gideon.
Yeah, there's an Overgrown Tomb over on Levi's side.
So here's the Planeswalker. will bring a Knight ally. Looks like Levi will say go. Fatal Push. Well, that's going to make it even easier for Todd. And yeah, he'll push away the token and attack. I was wondering if we might see Todd get very greedy and just cast Street Wraith, but that's too much.
If Street Wraith had 4 power or Gideon had 3 loyalty, there's a lot bigger incentive to that.
If it was
line.
1 attack and not 2.
Right.
But Gideon down. Levi's playing off the top of the deck. It's a spot, though, where Obzon certainly can win from. Among the best top decking lists in the format.
Yeah, though he is running light on clean answers to Gurmag Angler at this stage in the game. He's already gone through multiple Path to Exiles. That Maelstrom Pulse is gone. You can't Abrupt Decay this one.
Yeah.
Liliana of the Veil off the top, though, would be quite excellent.
Liliana of the Veil, he has 3 copies of that. Wait, the Fatal Pushes wouldn't work. He's looking at 1 Path to Exile and 3 Liliana of the Veil, and that's it.
Technically, another Gideon off the top would be a soft answer to the Gurmag Angler.
Well, here's Traverse the Ulfenwald. Does Levi have Delirium? That's a... Well, yeah, Planeswalker, instant sorcery land. So yeah, he will.
This is the one of Traverse.
Nice. Well done here, Levi. So, the creatures he can get: Tarmogoyf, Kalitas, Noble Hierarch, Scavenging Ooze, Grimflayer, Siege Rhino, Fulminator Mage.
Instant sorcery, creature land, Planeswalker, 5/6 Tarmogoyf. That one's not bad.
Looks like he's going for Siege Rhino. And you see, while he's searching his deck, also cracked a fetch land at the same time to save time.
Mm-hmm.
Gets Siege Rhino. This one will drain for 3. Levi goes, Todd will go down to 7. Levi up to 18.
Now in the heads-up fight, the Siege Rhino is smaller than the Gurmag Angler, but in the damage race of Todd being at 7 versus Levi being at 18,
yeah,
the Siege Rhino makes it so Todd can't attack.
Well, here's the Street Wraith, and Thoughtseize from Levi just shows a land. So Todd can just sit back on this 5/5 blocker as Street Wraith swings in for 3.
Yep, and I imagine that will be the plan.
Yeah, Levi down to 13. He took 2 off that Thoughtseize. Now Levi does have 2 copies of Shambling Vent in play. If he starts to run low on life here, those do have lifelink.
Unfortunately, he would just have to make a chump attack to convert that. He won't be able to do any blocking.
Treetop Village, a one of. That was his play for the turn. So a lot of creature lands for Levi.
And Todd's just peeling lands off the top of his deck, lands that can't become creatures. A couple of fetches in the hand here so far. So at some point, with that Treetop Village showing up for Levi, Todd has to start weighing whether or not he should start trying to block, or at least not attacking with the Street Wraith, especially if he continues to peel blanks. So that does incentivize him to be aggressive. He has to use his resources he has while they have them. Maybe Levi draws some blanks of his own.
Life shuttles are getting very close here. Levi down to 10 to Todd's 7.
At this stage, Levi is 1 shy of activating Treetop Village and Shambling Vents on the same turn, which means that even a land is actually kind of okay for him.
We mentioned here, though, Obzon is a great deck at playing off the top, and this Lingering Souls shows just why.
That one's better than a land.
Yeah.
And Todd down at 7, that's a 2-turn clock.
Well, and look, if we have a 1-turn clock, Levi can activate both Treetop Village and Shambling Vent. It may just be 1 swing.
Yeah, land off the top would be very beneficial.
So Serum Visions will try to find something for Todd. Land in hand, Serum Visions draws him a land. So top cards are another Visions and a Death Shadow. Death Shadow, a great find, but he's got to start thinking, does this matter? 2 swings of the Spirit tokens and the Shadow will never get a chance to attack.
So there's some question as to which of Todd's sideboard's cards he has brought in. If he has brought Kozilek's Return in, he really needs to find that immediately.
Right.
Death Shadow's not going to do it.
I guess if he's bringing in, it would just be for the card Lingering Souls. And you see Todd respecting that untapped land. He puts on the brakes. No swing from Street Wraith. And Levi, 4 in the air, will put Todd to 3. And Liliana of the Veil from Levi.
Another good draw.
Yeah, I mean, you think that, like, wow, Levi's just drawing so well. But remember, this is what Obzon wants to do. Obzon wants to get to a border, both players on empty hands, and then you top deck.
And Todd has been Path to Exile in this game. He's really only drawn like 1 or 2 more lands than Levi in the first place.
Well, we'll see if this will do it for him. He Serum Visions into Serum Visions and can scry a Snapcaster Mage to the top. This is among his best late game cards. Looking at his graveyard, though, not sure there's anything that saves him. We'll find out. Yeah.
And down at 3, he's turning through his deck in a way that suggests to me that Kozilek's Return is in there somewhere.
Draws into Tasigur, and that's not going to be enough. Levi Basham forces a game 3 here. You know, and you watched it just from being down, from playing off the top, you see Traverse into Siege Rhino, draw Lingering Souls, play Tree. I mean, and even without knowing what their lands are, play Treetop Village. There's just so many ways where they get power off the top of the deck.
Yeah, the deck plays a good amount of lands, 22, but the ones that turn into creatures, they're pretty close to spells.
All right, so at StarCityGames.com, we have our game night. That's the promotions around the country. You have exclusive pins and tokens that you receive just for playing in your weekly events. This month, we are giving away the Goose of St. Traft. We just switched over to July, so it means it's a new pin and a new token. We have that one on our coats this weekend. It's a 4/4 Flying Angel or your bird token, depending on how you want to use it. For August, we'll be giving away the Puggernaut. That's your 6/6 artifact creature beast token. Not to be blocked by walls or by doggy doors, I would suppose.
That's not an indoor dog.
And now this one, Ryan, the last one, I haven't seen it. This would go well in a Grixis Delver deck. You know, the next one is the Smell Snare. It's your Skunk Wizard token. Also has counters spells that cost 2.
I feel that's really attacked right now.
Oh, this card's good. You play this in Grixis?
As somebody that refuses to cut the forced spell snare from my modern decks, this feels like a dig at me.
All right, so you can find a store near you for Star City Games Game Night at starcitygames.com/game night. Also for tournament organizers, you can use the same link to sign your store up in time for the September promotion.
I'm gonna have a talk with some in-house employees.
That card stinks.
That's my least favorite. Slobber and Mile Driver was terrible, but Smell Snare is offensive.
Well, yeah, skunks are offensive. That's what you meant, right?
Sure. They smell offensive.
You know, spells. I am with you though. Spell Snare. That's a card. I'm a big fan of counterspells. I always kind of view the value of my counterspell as the mana ratio of the thing I countered to my counterspell. Spell Snare always passes the test.
Yep, it always trades up, and Modern is a very 2-mana saturated format. You play against a deck like Abzan. It's much better against Jund than Abzan because Abzan's so flooded on 3s. But against Grixis, in Grixis mirrors, when you play against Jeskai decks, countering Snapcaster Mage can just be the whole game.
It's good for the same reasons that Mental Misstep is good, you know.
It's good for different reasons. Mental Misstep doesn't cost mana. I don't know if you noticed that about the card.
No, it sometimes costs mana. If you need it to, it can cost mana.
Mental Misstep and Snapcaster Mage were briefly legal in the same standard format.
Yes, that's true.
That was disgusting.
Well, Mental Misstep was interesting. In Standard, it's actually pretty reasonable. Never as close to being banned.
No, they wouldn't have banned it in Standard, but it led to some pretty unfun games for my opponents. They were fun for me, though.
All right, we have game number 3. Todd will be on the play with Grixis Death's Shadow. Saw him win game 1, capitalizing on a missed land drop by Levi. Game 2, it looks like Todd was going to play the control role, but wasn't able to hold on to it.
A few too many lands off the top.
Starts with Serum Visions. See multiple Terminates. Already 1 Gurmag Angler in hand for Todd. But he'll put on top, it looks like a second Delve creature.
Top is not a good sign for Levi. Looks like Todd's hand's all full of spells, though.
Yeah, so finds a fetch land, says go. The next card on top of Todd's deck is a Delve creature. We'll see if he actually wants to draw it based on how this game goes.
You can certainly leave both cards on top in a situation where you don't intend on drawing the second one anyway.
The first one's a fetch land.
Little bluffing equity there.
Grim Flayer will be the first creature in the game. That's from Levi. You see Todd looking at a hand of Kolaghan's Command, Terminate, Fatal Push. So it decides exactly how he wants to deal with this one.
It would be really nice to Kolaghan's Command it down, though. With this 2 mana up right now, 2 Terminates in hand.
Interesting. He's going to go with the Fatal Push for it.
Suppose Levi's deck, there are some 3 mana things in there. He doesn't want to crack his fetch land. You see he did draw that Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, chose to draw it. You see Cycling Street Wraith. And looks like between these, yeah, he's going to go ahead and go for Gurmag Angler now. Fetches down to 13. That choice of Fatal Push over Terminate was pretty interesting from this side.
Yeah, he could have used the Street Wraith to draw into the Gurmag Angler that he didn't fetch away in the first place. But it looks like he really just wanted to hit his 3rd land drop to make this play.
Right.
I believe he's leaving up Stubborn Denial for this turn cycle. I believe that is the motivation for what's happening here.
You see Levi with Thoughtseize. And yeah, Todd has a Stubborn Denial up. Yeah, he'll show the hand. Kolaghan's Command, Terminate, Stubborn Denial. If there is the path to exile in Levi's hand, it makes sense that he'll just take the Stubborn Denial here.
And I like not countering on Todd's side. If the Stubborn Denial's good, Levi's just going to take it.
Yeah.
You can't use it anyway. And the information's not super valuable. It won't take long for Levi to derive the fact that Todd's hand is full of removal spells as he spends turns not casting creatures.
Tarmogoyf here from Levi. It's going to be a 4/5 off the bat. 1 type away from being able to block the Gurmag Angler. Though, as remember, Todd's hand, Terminate, Kolaghan's Command. This is really just fodder. Todd looks like he has a blue card drawn here. He would love to see another Stubborn Denial in his hand.
That would be a really nice top deck.
The attack with the Angler and a pass. Looks like Snapcaster Mage the pickup. That one might even be better.
Stubborn Denial plus a 2/1.
Yeah.
I think you could make the case that it's better.
It's Tarmogoyf full swing. Todd is at 10. He'll actually drop to 6 here, looking to terminate on the end step.
That allows him to leave up both Kolaghan's Command and Snapcaster Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, here's Maelstrom Pulse from Levi, and Todd could not Snapcaster Mage more quickly.
And Todd's winning this race if both players keep attacking. He's cracking for 7 on the crackback now.
Yeah, and he's still sitting behind those 2 Terminates. See Serum Visions for Todd. That Snapcaster Mage was just the draw he needed.
Yes, that was a really nice one. So he's thinking about whether or not to cast Serum Visions. If Levi has to crack a fetch land or chooses to crack a fetch land on the following turn, this attack plus Kolaghan's Command would be lethal. So there's some argument to have that up for this turn here. Also, if the Snapcaster Mage dies for some reason, getting it back is really nice.
The swing will put Levi down to 3. We'll see if he can recover. His Tarmogoyf down to a 3/4. That happened after the Snapcaster Mage got rid of the Stubborn Denial. And Levi knows he can't leave back blockers. Todd has double Terminate.
Right.
And he actually has to kill both creatures. The Kolaghan's Command in Todd's hand is 2 damage.
Yeah, he just can't take any more damage.
You know, a double kill spell here would be ideal for Levi. He's going to cast Traverse. Does not have Delirium.
Just sorcery land creature in the graveyard.
So
he doesn't really want a non-basic land. It looks like he wants a land. Of course, he doesn't want to fetch or shock from here.
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't have Delirium, so he actually has to take a basic land.
Right, but that's probably what he wanted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he could have a Lingering Souls here, but double Terminate allows Todd to actually chip in through that. You just cast the Kolaghan's Command, end step, get rid of 2 blockers, attack in.
Grim Flayer as a blocker. Says go. Kind of mentioned blockers are no good here. And both players know it. Yeah, Todd shuffling the 2 terminates back and forth. It's got to wonder, does Levi have Path to Exile? He's left up a Plains as a bluff.
So it seems likely that Todd will go for Terminate on Tarmogoyf at the end step here.
That'll be the play. Does not want to try to Kolaghan's Command the Grim Flare. If Levi does have Path to Exile, that's one of the ways Todd could get blown out here.
Right. That would put an instant in the graveyard. That's currently a card type that's missing.
Right.
And he still...
Oh, yeah, there's that, yeah.
He still wants to go for the Kolaghan's Command upstairs. If he draws a land, this game should be locked up. He'll be able to terminate the Grim Flare and then cast Kolaghan's Command on his next turn.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, he can just attack to start this turn, and that's likely good enough. If Levi has a Path to Exile, it would get him 1 more turn, and that's it. Untapped land, though, should do it. But as should Fatal Push. He'll push the Grim Flare, attack, and that is going to be the game and the match. Todd Anderson is your winner here with Grixis Death Shadow.